What if the reason you feel stuck is not because life is against you, but because a part of you is afraid to move forward? Most of us spend years trying to change our circumstances. We change routines, goals, even people around us. But somehow, we end up facing the same patterns again and again. Different situation, same feeling. Different place, same struggle. And before we go further, if you want to understand your mind and grow a little stronger with every story, subscribe to the book Day and become better than yesterday. The Mountain is You by Brianna Wiest begins with a difficult truth. The obstacle in your life is not the world outside you. It is the part of you that is trying to protect you from change, even when that change is exactly what you need. The mountain in this book is not a real mountain. It is a symbol. It represents your fears, your old habits, your emotional wounds, and the quiet ways you hold yourself back. And the shocking idea is this: you are not fighting the mountain, you are the mountain. This does not mean you are broken. It means your mind learned certain survival strategies a long time ago, and it keeps using them even when they no longer help you. Self-sabotage is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that a part of you is still trying to stay safe. Imagine someone who keeps procrastinating on their dreams. From the outside, it looks like laziness, but inside, there may be a fear of being judged, failing, or even succeeding and losing their current identity. Staying stuck feels painful, but it also feels familiar, and the human mind often chooses familiar pain over unfamiliar freedom. This is why willpower alone rarely works. You cannot force yourself to change, while a deeper part of you is terrified of what that change might bring. Real transformation begins when you understand why you resist your own growth. Brianna Wiest explains that self-sabotage is a conflict between two needs. One part of you wants expansion, purpose, and progress. Another part wants safety, predictability, and emotional survival. When these two parts are at war, progress stalls. Most people respond by fighting themselves. They criticize their lack of discipline. They compare themselves to others. They push harder, but pressure without understanding only makes resistance stronger. This book invites a different approach. Instead of attacking the part of you that is stuck, you learn to listen to it, because hidden inside self-sabotage is information. It tells you what you fear losing, what you secretly believe you don't deserve, and what wounds are still asking to be healed. The mountain is not meant to be destroyed. It is meant to be climbed, slowly, patiently, with awareness. To understand why we keep getting stuck in the same places, Brianna Wiest asks us to look backward before we try to move forward. Most of our reactions today are not created today. They are echoes of yesterday. Your mind is constantly trying to keep you alive, not fulfilled. And to do that, it stores memories of pain and creates patterns to avoid that pain ever happening again. These patterns once protected you, but over time, they can quietly become cages. Imagine a child who was often criticized for speaking up. To stay safe, they learned to stay quiet. That strategy worked then. It reduced conflict. It created peace. But years later, the same silence stops them from asking for opportunities, expressing ideas, or setting boundaries. A survival skill becomes self-sabotage. The mind does not know the difference between past danger and present safety. If something once hurt you deeply, your brain treats similar situations as threats, even when they are harmless now. So you hesitate, you withdraw, you delay, not because you are incapable, but because a younger part of you is still on guard. This is why logic alone cannot free you. You may understand that an opportunity is good for you, yet still feel an invisible wall holding you back. That wall is made of old emotions that were never fully processed. Wiest explains that self-sabotage is not random, it is patterned. You repeat what is unresolved, you avoid what once hurt, and without awareness, your future becomes a copy of your past. Many people try to escape this by forcing positive thinking. They tell themselves to be confident or stop overthinking. But ignoring old wounds does not heal them. It only buries them deeper, where they quietly control your choices. Real change begins when you become emotionally honest with yourself. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" you ask, "What happened to me?" That question shifts blame into understanding, and understanding creates compassion instead of shame. When you see your patterns clearly, you realize they are not proof of failure. They are messages. They reveal what you learned to believe about love, safety, success, and worth. Some of those beliefs protected you once, but now they limit you. Climbing your inner mountain means updating those beliefs. It means showing your mind that the present is not the past, that you are no longer powerless, that growth is not danger. This is slow work. It cannot be rushed or forced. But every time you notice a reaction, instead of blindly following it, you take a step upward. Your patterns are not your destiny. They are invitations to heal. One of the hardest truths in this journey is that people do not always choose what makes them happy. They choose what feels familiar, even if that familiarity hurts. Brianna Wiest explains that the mind is wired for predictability, not joy, not freedom, not success, predictability, because what is predictable feels controllable and what feels controllable feels safe. This is why someone can stay in a draining job, a painful relationship, or a self-defeating routine for years. From the outside, it looks irrational. Inside, it feels stable. The pain is known, and the unknown, even if it carries possibility, feels dangerous. Your comfort zone is not always comfortable. It is simply known. Real change requires stepping into emotional uncertainty, and uncertainty activates every alarm in your nervous system, so your mind creates excuses. Not now, maybe later, I'm not ready. These thoughts feel logical, but they are emotional defense mechanisms. Wiest calls this attachment to familiar pain a hidden loyalty to your past identity. If you grew up feeling unimportant, success can feel threatening because it demands you become someone new. If you learned that love must be earned through struggle, peaceful relationships can feel suspicious or boring. So you unconsciously recreate the old story because it matches the version of you that feels safe to be. This is self-sabotage at its deepest level, not failure of effort, but protection of identity. Climbing your inner mountain means allowing your identity to evolve. That feels like loss before it feels like freedom. You are not just changing habits. You are letting go of the person you had to be in order to survive. The mind resists this because it mistakes growth for danger. It does not realize that safety can expand. Wiest explains that the turning point comes when you stop asking, "What feels safe right now?" and start asking, "What leads to the life I actually want?" Those two answers are rarely the same at first. Growth feels uncomfortable not because it is wrong, but because it is unfamiliar. And unfamiliarity is the price of transformation. Choosing unfamiliar freedom over familiar pain is the first true act of self-trust. It tells your mind that the future does not need to repeat the past. This choice is small at first. One honest conversation, one brave decision, one step outside the routine. Each time you act despite fear, your mind learns a new definition of safety. Slowly, the unknown becomes known, and what once felt impossible begins to feel natural. Your comfort zone is not meant to be a home. It is meant to be a starting point. If stepping out of your comfort zone feels terrifying, it's not because you're weak. It's because your nervous system thinks you're in danger. Brianna Wiest explains that real change is not just a mental decision. It is a physical experience. Your body reacts to uncertainty the same way it reacts to threat. Your heart races, your thoughts scatter, you feel the urge to run back to what is known. This is why many people start changing and then suddenly stop. They mistake discomfort for a sign they are doing something wrong. In reality, discomfort is proof that the old patterns are loosening their grip. Emotional resilience is the ability to stay present inside that discomfort without escaping into old habits. Most self-sabotage happens in moments of emotional overwhelm. When feelings become intense, the mind searches for quick relief. Distraction, procrastination, self-doubt, overthinking. These behaviors are not laziness. They are attempts to calm the nervous system. But quick relief creates long-term stagnation. Real resilience comes from learning to sit with difficult emotions instead of running from them. Wiest emphasizes that healing is not about eliminating fear, it is about expanding your capacity to hold it. Courage is not the absence of anxiety, it is the willingness to move while anxiety is present. Think of emotional strength like a muscle. If you avoid every heavy feeling, the muscle never grows. If you meet those feelings gently and repeatedly, your tolerance expands. This does not mean forcing yourself into constant stress. It means allowing waves of discomfort to pass through without believing they define you. When fear rises, instead of asking, "How do I stop this feeling?" you ask, "How do I stay with this feeling safely?" That small shift turns panic into practice. Wiest reminds us that emotions are temporary messengers, not permanent truths. Fear says, "You are in danger," but often the real message is, "You are entering new territory." Resilience grows when you respond to fear with curiosity instead of escape. What is this feeling protecting? What does it want me to know? Over time, your body learns that uncertainty is not fatal. Each brave moment rewrites the old survival code. What once triggered shutdown begins to trigger strength. This is the hidden work of transformation, not dramatic breakthroughs, but quiet endurance, staying when you want to flee, breathing when you want to freeze. Healing does not remove pain from life. It changes your relationship to pain. Instead of an enemy, it becomes a signal of expansion. At some point on this inner climb, a strange realization appears. The very things that hurt you most are also pointing you toward what matters most. Brianna Wiest explains that pain is not only something to escape, it is something to understand. Hidden inside your strongest triggers are clues about your deepest values. If rejection hurts deeply, connection is important to you. If failure terrifies you, achievement matters to you. If feeling invisible wounds you, expression is part of your truth. Pain is not proof that you are broken, it is proof that you care. Most people spend years trying to avoid the places that hurt. They distract themselves, numb themselves, or shrink their dreams to stay comfortable. But avoidance also hides direction. The areas that shake you most are often the areas where your real life is waiting. Wiest calls this turning pain into purpose, not by romanticizing suffering, but by listening to what it reveals. Your struggles are not random obstacles, they are personal signposts. They show you where growth is needed and where meaning can be found. The mountain blocks your path because it is also the path. When you face the fear instead of fleeing it, you uncover strengths you didn't know existed. The part of you that learned to survive now learns to lead. This does not mean every hardship is good. It means every hardship carries information. When you ask, "What is this teaching me?" instead of "Why is this happening to me?" suffering begins to transform into guidance. Many people wait to feel confident before moving toward their purpose, but Wiest argues the opposite. Confidence is built by walking into uncertainty, not by waiting for certainty to appear. Purpose is not found by thinking alone. It is discovered through courageous action, repeated imperfectly. The mountain becomes smaller each time you climb it, not because the challenge disappears, but because your capacity expands. The fear that once stopped you becomes the fuel that moves you. This is how identity changes. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is stuck and start seeing yourself as someone who is becoming. Your past pain becomes your present strength. The same experiences that once limited you now deepen your empathy, sharpen your insight, and clarify your direction. The life you want is not on the other side of avoiding struggle. It is on the other side of understanding it. At the end of this climb, there is no dramatic finish line, no perfect version of you waiting at the top. What you find instead is something quieter and far more powerful. You find yourself without the weight of old fear deciding your future. Brianna Wiest reminds us that healing is not becoming someone new. It is becoming someone true. The goal is not to erase your past or silence your emotions. It is to understand them so deeply that they no longer control you from the shadows. The mountain was never an enemy, it was a mirror. Every fear you faced revealed a belief ready to change. Every discomfort you endured expanded your capacity. Every step forward proved that safety can grow with you. Self-sabotage fades when self-understanding grows. The part of you that once held you back was not trying to ruin your life. It was trying to protect the version of you that existed before you knew you could become more. When you listen instead of fight, that protective voice softens. It stops saying, "Stay small," and begins asking, "What's next?" True transformation is gentle and steady. It is built from repeated honesty, not sudden breakthroughs. Each time you choose awareness over avoidance, you rewrite your story. You stop waiting for fear to disappear, you walk with it. You stop demanding certainty, you build trust. You stop chasing perfection, you practice presence. The summit is not a place where struggle ends. It is a place where struggle loses its power to define you. You learn that discomfort is not a signal to retreat, but an invitation to expand. And something unexpected happens. The mountain that once blocked your path becomes the ground beneath your feet. What once felt impossible becomes familiar. What once felt heavy becomes strength. You realize you were never meant to conquer yourself. You were meant to understand yourself. When you understand your patterns, you gain choice. When you gain choice, you gain freedom. And when you gain freedom, growth no longer feels like danger, it feels like home. This book leaves you with a quiet truth. You do not need to force your way forward. You need to meet yourself fully, patiently, and honestly. The mountain is you. But so is the path. And so is the climber. And every step you take with awareness turns resistance into resilience and fear into direction. That is the real summit.